Ever thought of erecting a garden shed yourself from a flat pack, but been put off by horror stories or horrible examples that have gone wrong? Well, you can do it yourself as long as you're careful and take time, and I'll take you through how I did it. I've chosen the Duratuf shed, which is quite large, 1.5 by 3 metres. It's a good quality shed. The first thing to do is read the instructions carefully. If you think you can't do it yourself, please get somebody in. You can make a muck of it. The first thing in looking at the finished product is get a good flat foundation. This one's wood with the shed overlapping it. Even if you go to a lot of trouble, if you don't get the foundation level and square, you're in trouble from the very start. So the door is the first thing comes out of the flat pack. This is quite complicated because there's lots of parts to it, and you come across two things that are quite important. When you do this, you want a very sharp drill and good support as you put the pieces together. The sheets are very weak along the length, and if you try to drill through and rivet them together, they would bend. Here we go, putting the hinges on as much as we can do. The next thing is the back wall. If you don't have much room and can't lay it out properly, you have to really get it in position as best you can, so you can just tilt it up. It's quite large, you wouldn't want anything much bigger for one person. Here we go, putting the sheets together, carefully riveting and making sure that the ribs are held together with support while we drill the holes and rivet. If your drill isn't sharp, it'll cause problems. Clouts in the bottom, and now we're going to put some support up. You don't want a windy day for this. And tilt it up, make sure it's level. They don't say in the instructions, but you do need a level. Here we go, side walls same as the back. And again, you have to jiggle these into place and make sure everything's level and nail them to the bottom so the whole thing is supported roughly in position. Here we go. And notice I'm putting damp course on the joists, so I've got on the sleepers. We want the whole thing not to have damp coming up. The front wall is quite tricky because you have the door in this. And you have to follow the instructions exactly and get the jambs in exactly the right place, otherwise your door won't fit or it won't be square. So you really do need a straight edge for this when you put these sheets on, because the wood may be warped slightly in the top and bottom plates and you want to straighten it out. Here we go, jambs on, measuring carefully, putting the sheets on. Now this whole thing is quite floppy because of the space in the middle, and we had a bit of an oops putting this up, but we got there. It's quite tricky to squeeze the plates together because they have to fit together quite exactly. Here we got it into place, and now we're putting in the floor that came with it after putting the joists in. The floor is just a series of boards, damp course over, and the boards are in temporarily to begin with. So there we are, we've got the 4 walls and the floor in. Just carefully riveting the corners together. Now the roof is interesting because one thing about these sheets is that they're not very strong, and if you lean on them in the middle they will bend badly. And the roof is probably about the maximum length that you could span. To make it more solid, I'm putting in rafters, as you can see, 50 by 75. Carefully putting them in. Later on I'll put wooden supports up the walls to support shelving, and they make it even stronger in the walls. Just putting them across. And also when you do this, if you can, put some lining under the tin and the roof. This will stop condensation. So here we go. All done, more or less. Making sure the whole thing is square. Putting some straps across to support the lining, black building paper. Don't pick a windy day for this. 2 pieces. And now we're ready for the next step, which is putting the roof on. Now I wouldn't recommend assembling the roof on the ground. It's best to put the sheets up with a piece of wood where you're going to rivet, so you can solidly hold the ribs together while you do it, and just slide them across as you put the rivets in. Here we go. Quite easy if you take your time. Now you hope everything is square when you do this, but it may be slightly out, and there is a bit of a slop factor in this. But the crucial thing is that the flashings fit tightly against the sides, and you can stretch and fiddle things a little bit to do this. Here we go, putting one on, just checking the other one, trying to make sure everything's square as best we can. And after doing the corners, we nail down each side. So now we've got the roof on, and we need a little guttering, the flashings and little guttering at the front. As you can see, we've got the flashings on the side. And these may not fit exactly, but there is a slop factor. Now we've got the guttering along the front, and that's the whole thing more or less done. Sweep off any filings so they don't rust. And fitting the door. Now you've got to be very careful doing this and make sure the hinges attach exactly, because you don't get 2 goes at it. So here we are supporting the door, just 1 rivet on each side, just checking everything fits. Yep, perfect. A very, very good fit. And there we are. We'll put the latch on, and it's your finished product. End of story.